This is actually hilarious. I was trying to do an intro for this video for a while now, for like 15 minutes, when I finally realized that there was no memory card in the camera. So yeah, that's the intro for this video. Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about sliders. That's what we're going to actually talk about. Most specifically the Konova motorized slider. I used to have this manual carbon fiber slider, which is great. I mean, check this out. It just works fantastically. The only problem is that it's manual. Why is that a problem? Because when you want to get a shot that is regular, that is consistent, that has the same speed throughout, having it manual is really hard, and you need to take several takes and try to do your best. And it's fine. I did a lot of B-roll in previous videos on this channel, but now that I have this motorized slider, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it, and we're gonna get this one out of the way. This slider is carbon fiber. It is 1.48 kg and it's 80 centimeters long. You can take a longer version, a shorter version. You can take, I think, 60, 80, 1 meter, 1 meter 20. I took the 80 version because it's plenty for what I need. It has a 10 kilo payload capacity. I do not use 10 kilos even when I use my camera with the rig, with the cage. Anyways, usually it's the camera with a cage. And that's about it. In terms of price, you're paying $279 for this thing. Right now there's, I think, a 10% discount on top of it, so you're around 250 bucks. For a motorized slider, that is not bad. If you compare to more expensive brands, it will not give you the same stability, the same options, the same quality and so forth, but it is still pretty good for the price. It's decent. You can mount 3/8 and 1/4 inch screws. They give you a little tiny screw like this. And this basically allows you to plop any tripod ball head that you would have laying around. You can do some panning on the shots by adjusting the little ruler that you find here on the sides. So for example, if I change this to put it at 15, and you do the same thing here, and you just change it and you put it once again 15, your camera is going to do some pannings. And that is great because it's not a pen head that you can set a focus on an object and the camera will just follow that object. That's awesome. That's something that more expensive sliders do. But this one, on the other hand, does that very simply, and it works, I think, great. It does the job. I've been using it for recent B-roll videos. That's why I waited a little bit to do this review, by the way, because I wanted to make sure that it's actually very usable. You can do panorama shots outward up to 140 degrees, which is basically the same principle. You just move these ruler little sliders and your camera will move up and down and it will look outwards like this instead of inward. You can shoot horizontal, diagonal, or vertical, so you can really take the shots however you want, which is great because it holds the camera in place no matter how you're putting your slider. Konova sells additional support for tripods. So instead of having just a central tripod that you put here, you can have two additional support legs, I would call them, on here that basically makes the whole setup very stable. Because when you put it on a tripod, for example, the Satchler that I'm using right now, it tends to wobble a little bit when the camera moves too much to the side because it doesn't have that extra support. So that's something that can fix that little problem that you might have with one tripod. In terms of setup, this is very simple. It's all in the manual, but to make a long story short, all you have to do is you block the belt on one side, pass it through the little support for the camera, the base here, and then you block it on the other end. And that's basically it. This is a motorized slider that works with an app. And that is a great thing. So you can take your iPhone or your phone and you can control the slider from your phone. In the menu, you will find video, time-lapse, 360 and manual. So you can do all those different options based on what you want to do. I usually do video, and the way it works is very simple. All you have to do is you set your slider to a point A, you then set it to a point B, and anything in between, basically the slider will go back and forth. And you can choose if you want it to go from A to B or from B to A or A, B, and just continue going back and forth. In terms of motors, I'm very surprised because they're extremely quiet. I know the version before the S3 that I have here was a little bit more noisy, and I saw some videos that complained about that. In this very version, they basically killed the sound. Like, I don't hear anything. Even if you get really close, you do not hear anything happening on the slider. So motors wise, if you need to use this for an interview or to shoot something with audio, don't worry, you're not gonna hear it. Battery wise, they use NP type batteries. So for example, here I have an NP-F 970, so it's a big block, big mofo. All you have to do is put it here, block it, turn it on, and you're done. So this should last you a long time. It should not be a problem. And you can have many of them with you. So if you take the slider outdoor, or if you need to take it on a shoot or for some real estate video or anything, you can do so with a battery. You can also plug it to the outlet, but having a battery is the simplest setup. They do not provide a battery with the slider. So if you're going to buy one, think with that and buy one beforehand. Now, in terms of cons, so sometimes you have some micro jitters and some stops, some blocks. It doesn't move as fluidly, it shakes a little bit, and that's something you can see on the footage. When you're recording, you can see that. So that's not something you're gonna have a surprise later on. You can actually detect that. I usually use an external monitor when I'm recording my B-roll, so I can see on the big screen what's happening. One thing that I found that kind of handles and fixes that is to not go too fast. So when you use the app, try to set a few more seconds so that it has time to move slowly. Another thing is in post, you add some stabilization afterwards. It's gonna crop in a little bit, but at least you can remove most of those micro jitters and movements. Another con is when you put this guy from the base here on a tripod, you mount it. As I said earlier, when you start moving around, it tends to bend a little bit and move around like this. And that's a problem because you see the footage shaking a bit or having a hard time moving, and it's micro jitters, but you still see them, and that doesn't work. So what I did do is I put 2 tripods on either sides, and it kind of fixes that problem. Another thing I wish you could do is to disable the motors when you're making pre-adjustments or when you're just making any type of adjustment. And what I mean by that is that sometimes I like to go around like this. For example, when I want to do a pen shot and I want to set my point A here, I can make the adjustments and I move to the other side here to the point B in preview, and I adjust this. So my camera is mounted on and I can see what's gonna happen. Then I turn on the app and I just set point A, point B, and off you go. When you have this thing on with the battery and it's turned on and connected to your phone, you can't do that because it blocks. It basically doesn't allow you to do it, to move the slider. So every time I have to turn off, set the thing manually, turn it back on, connect it to my phone, set point A and point B, and then do it. In terms of quality, the on-off button is a little white button that is made of plastic. It is very plasticky and definitely not refined. Like, there's no an actual button. It looks like it's not finished. It's a bit like it's a pre-model. So that's something they could improve, but it's more of an aesthetic problem, not an actual problem on the slider. Last but not least, one thing that I think should be added is the fact that when you turn this thing off, the point A and the point B don't get memorized, they get forgotten about every time you turn it off. I get it when you remove the battery, but it would be great if when you switch off the actual power, just the button on and off, it would remember the point A and the point B. So when you reconnect to your phone, you already know which one is the point A and which one is the point B, and you can keep the same settings without having to each time redo the whole setting and setup and everything, because it is not hard, but it takes some time. I don't think there's a lot to say about this other than it does the job and it does it great. There's a few little hiccups here and there, but for a slider that you connect with your phone, I think it's a no-brainer. You should go for this if your budget allows to buy this. If you can buy something more expensive, sure, you can get better brands out there, but for what it does, I think it's good. All right, that's my take on this P1 S3, this new slider by Konova. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And like always, I see you and I catch you in my next video. Take care. Cheers.